let's talk about Google Cloud and let's talk about AWS Cloud. Let's start with Google.
Yeah, so let me flash this screen up here.
By the way, you're so good at this production stuff, man.
Listen, if this analyst thing, if I crash and burn on that, maybe I can be a producer
for me.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd love to be your handmaiden. Let's dive into this, and this is going to be really quick for me because, quite frankly, Google doesn't give a lot up about Google Cloud, and Google Cloud comprises IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS services. SaaS services like Google Workspace, and IaaS services like IaaS services, and everything in between. And they have a very strong in IaaS and PaaS in machine learning and analytics, and they typically use it as a land and expand strategy to go in and get more. But net, Google Cloud had 45% growth all the way to $5.4 billion. You can do the math, gets them to a $22 billion run rate business that, quite frankly, is incredible. And the team there and the leadership team deserves a lot of credit. They are still losing a lot of money. They lost $890 million in the recent quarter, but that loss narrowed. It narrowed 39% year on year, and it narrowed $353 million. And that's it. I'm sticking to my guns, baby.
Yeah, I think we can keep this one fairly short, Pat. I had the chance to talk to Emily Chang about this. I'm doing my victory lap. You taught me how to do this. I'm so good at it now. But I enjoyed the opportunity to do this with Talking Alphabet. And this was the part that's most interesting to me. Look, the company's financials are incredible. The amount of revenue and earnings they create, but that's all the advertising business. The one thing I think everybody can pretty much shake off at this point is that the IDFA Apple stuff is going to hurt Google. It might, but not in a way that's anywhere nearly as adverse as what it's done to Meta. And I guess that's the difference of having people that use your platform because they want to, and people who are being advertised to because they want to talk to their friends. It's a totally different, experience, and people continue to go to Google, use Google. And by the way, we'll circle back because I would say Amazon's had a surprisingly big advertising business too. But the cloud business, Pat, is there's a really simple conversation that's going to continue every quarter until it's not. And that's, do they become profitable? And by the way, do they need to be profitable? And that's probably, arguably, maybe the bigger question is, Google doesn't want to be number 3 or 4. And then depending on how they're being ranked, in some cases, they're sitting behind Oracle too.
That's right.
Google wants to be number 1. Google doesn't do things to be number 3 or 4. And so growing organically or racing for profits when you're creating huge earnings per share through other parts of your business, do you get the leeway from the markets to invest, grow, and not make money? And by the way, be pretty transparent about it, because a lot of companies could just hide that in that overall number and just say, hey, cloud's now X billions of dollars. We're not.
Well, and they did do that for a while. But they had to break out the revenue. But I'm saying they could be spouting off the revenue, Pat, and not sharing the loss. They could just say, hey, there's how much revenue we're doing, and just bury the actual loss into the bigger number. They're being transparent. So I give them credit for that particular action. They're going to try to grow. You see, we'll get to AWS soon, but over almost 18 billion a quarter. That's the number that's in the mind of Google. That's the number they're chasing. And all I'm saying is they're going to spend and they're going to spend. And don't even be surprised, in my opinion, if you see the losses stop narrowing. You may see bigger losses, because if they're going to want to grow, they're going to need to make acquisitions. They're going to need to add services. They're going to need to build more data centers. They're going to need to buy more compute power. They're going to need to hire more salespeople, and I think they'll do it. And by the way, I don't know that that's wrong, because when you have the, when you have the business they have, the leading side of their company, I think they're allowed to do that. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's a decision they'll have to make. But if their shareholders and following their 20-to-1 split now, don't feel confident and don't get excited, and they're worried about Google Cloud and they sell for that reason, I'd be surprised, because it's growing at a good pace, not quite as fast as Azure, but it's growing at a good pace. They're narrowing losses for now. They're gaining customers every quarter.
I think Google Cloud has a bright future.
Hey, and check this out. I had to share this with you, with the audience. So Corey Quinn, we kind of go back and forth with him on Twitter. He had a really interesting. By the way, he's an economist for his company, and he essentially helps AWS clients. And he had a really nice thing to say, and you can read it here about Google Cloud. He said essentially, if you were starting from scratch, he would pick Google Cloud. And I know people were talking about that. We were going back and forth about it, but that, if nothing else, is some pretty strong affirmation for Google Cloud.
Yeah, Pat, it's hard to not feel like they're going the right way. The knock is going to be profit. But I don't know if that's a knock when you got a business that's creating the type of income they have. Don't they get to make bets? Don't they get to invest in growth? Every company does that. The market can be disproportionately critical of things at times, but I would be betting more on Google's investment than Meta's silly $10 billion a year investment in VR. So call me wrong when I'm wrong, but I'm not buying that $800,000 plot of land next to Snoop Dogg's metaverse house. Just not yet.